And the next place that we are going to go was one of my other favorite places on the trip. That is the capital of Toashaun. So after our hike, we were tired, we were a little chilly by the end, and we were ready to get settled in, to enjoy some culture and to get some food in our bellies. And so now I would like to take you on a little tour of Toashaun.
Welcome to Toashaun, the capital of the Faroe Islands and home to 20,000 of the country's 50,000 residents, making it one of the smallest country capitals in the world. Toashaun literally means Thor's Harbor. However, the city is constructed on one of the country's worst natural harbors. Nevertheless, this small, plucky town is determined to be cosmopolitan, with chic restaurants, cute shops, plenty of sweaters, warm cafes, and museums that catalog both the country's history and its art. It is a beautiful capital to explore, and we're going to take a look around now. The story of Faroese governance begins on the rocky peninsula of Tinkanes, and no trip to Toashaun is complete without a visit. While Irish monks were likely the first people to settle the Faroe Islands, the 9th century brought the Norse, and they quickly became the dominant force here in the Faroe Islands. Around the year 900, they established a ting, or a people's assembly, on the rocky shores of modern-day Toashaun, where they would debate development of the islands and settle disputes. It was a largely democratic process, prompting some to say that the Faroe Islands have one of the oldest parliamentary systems in the world. However, in 1035, the Ting decided that they would join the Kingdom of Norway, and gradually over the next few centuries, the Ting lost power and control to forces like Norway, Denmark, the Hanseatic League, independent merchants, and pirates who sought to plunder the nation's natural resources and to control its trade. Eventually, Denmark emerged as the primary oppressor, and after a few attempts at independence, World War II shifted the scales. The Danes lost power, the Faroese gained power by providing fishing to the United Kingdom, and in 1948, the two nations settled on the Faroese Home Rule Act, which determined that the Faroe Islands is a self-governing community within the Kingdom of Denmark. The government of the Faroe Islands was reestablished here in Tinkanes, and now these former red grass-roofed warehouses, rather than housing goods, now house ministries such as the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Taxation, and most importantly to Faroese, the Ministry of Trade. They even have the office of the Prime Minister right here. A few steps from Tinkanes, we suddenly find ourselves in Toashaun's oldest neighborhood. Just north of Tinkanes is the city's oldest neighborhood of Rain. It's a cobbled-together assortment of grass-roofed houses, colorful buildings, and niggling lanes. You're welcome to walk through. The locals just kindly ask that you please don't peek in their windows. People still live here. Also in Rain sits the Toashaun Cathedral, and while the exterior is unassuming, the interior is striking. A pipe organ nestles in the curved balcony, and model ships dangle from the starry blue ceiling. One a gift from shipwrecked sailors saved by the Faroese. In addition to its historic sites, Toashaun also has more modern amenities. Chic eateries, lively public art, soccer fields for the Faroese national team and kids alike, a startlingly scenic track, pleasant riding paths, and an excellent art museum. The Listasound Frujar Art Gallery makes it its mission to catalog Faroese culture through its art. It showcases local sculptors, portrait artists, painters, and even knitters in exhibits that showcase how Faroese society is sculpted by the natural environment around it. The greatest force in Faroese culture is the sea, and the first exhibit is dedicated to its shifting moods. From serenely calm and glazed in sun, to dark and brooding, crashing against the rocks. The fickle sea safely harbors boats one day, and dismantles them the next. Other rooms are dedicated to other prominent aspects of Faroese life, rocks, birds, sheep, country life, small towns, and big cities. Well, by comparison, that is. Overall, the National Art Gallery sends a clear message. The Faroese people share a spiritual connection with the dramatic natural world around them, and both nature and culture are alive and well in this small nation. But despite all of the great culture in Toashan, one of my favorite things to do is to simply go get a chai latte and hang out with locals and tourists alike at the Panam Cafe.
I was at the Panam Cafe a lot. If anywhere, that's where I became a temporary local. So those were some of my favorite sites in Toashan. I knew that the Faroe Islands was going to be just a natural paradise, but what really surprised me was how much I enjoyed the culture. And especially the art museum was probably one of my top 5 favorite museums I've ever been to. It was very small, manageable. You could see all of it in about 90 minutes, but it felt like taking a tour of Faroese culture. So highly recommend that. Other noteworthy sites, though, they do have a fort, the Skansen Fort. The Nordic House celebrates the Faroe Islands connections to its Nordic neighbors. And then there is a national museum and an open air museum, which I would love to get to if I have more time on my next visit. I want to take this opportunity, as Toashan is likely to be a hub for a lot of travelers, to talk a little bit about some logistics. So first, lodging. This might not be applicable to a lot of you watching. If you are an indoors person, if you want to sleep indoors, there's plenty of Airbnbs. You can find plenty of hotels. A lot of them are on the tourism website, but Micah and I chose to go cheap and camp. And I think it was a very wise decision because we had beautiful views for exceptional prices. In Toashan, we just paid $17 per person per night. And in Aya, we actually had an even more beautiful camping site, and it was just $17 for both of us for a night. You can't just camp wherever in the Faroe Islands. You have to camp at designated campgrounds. Sometimes they're beautiful. Sometimes they're just old soccer fields. There are also plenty of people that camp in caravans rather than in tents. But it is a very cheap way to travel if you just pack some warm layers. And in terms of eating, I will say if you are a foodie, the Faroe Islands might not be your favorite place. There are many great things about the islands, but the food is a little bit sparse. And if you want traditional cuisine, they really have fish and meat and potatoes. So especially as a vegetarian, I did not go for the more traditional fare. However, there was plenty of good food. We did not go hungry. We got some Thai takeout. We got some pho at a trendy eatery. We went to a sports bar one night and got burgers. They actually had really good vegetarian options. Probably the most kind of local thing that I consumed was the Green Islands Stout by the Faroe Islands Brewery, which is the only brewery on the islands. But I would say you will not go hungry, but don't expect for some very niche and delicious food experiences. That said, again, my favorite was the Panam Cafe. It was just a run-of-the-mill cafe, but it had kind of the pulse of the city. It was always filled with people. It was always vibrant, and I can never say no to some cake.